The Kurdish community of America, why did it emerge? Well, first of all, because we have a huge Kurdish population in the Midwest. I mean, because of the Midwest is not so huge, 1,100 people, it's kind of huge to be around here, being a minority. So our organization was established September 9th, 2009, and that was after I got my undergrad. A year after that, it took me, can you believe that? It took me a year to get this organization started. It's very hard going through IRS, doing all the paperwork, legal stuff, getting registered with the state. So it's not an easy task process. You got to have skills. And good thing that I had was experience in the nonprofit world. So this was very good for me. And our mission is to be a resource center for learning and development. To be honest with you, there was a lot of old community members, especially the youth. They were growing up in this country and taking advantage for all the great things here. And they were losing their culture and forgetting about how their family struggled to get here. So all the great things, we wanted to show them and hold on to something for them to understand that this is a place that they can gain, something that they can be great in the future. So our work internally is also helping a lot of newer families after Operation Iraqi Freedom. There's a lot of Kurdish individuals and folks, Kurdish and non-Kurdish, since we're a public organization. Our doors are open for anyone, and we help them with affordable housing, employment, immigration. We do taxes just to create a little revenue because we are a nonprofit, so every dollar for us counts. And doing stuff like this, we don't get paid a lot to do this, but we believe it's very important to educate the greater community about different ethnic groups and especially our community, because our community is in the shadows, and we want to, that timeline is before we didn't have social media, we didn't have the internet, so it was very hard for the Kurdish people, for the Kurdish nation to educate the global community that who we are and that we're very oppressed people. And externally, we've been doing some humanitarian aid, which is after the ISIS conflict and all the refugees. So, when did the first Kurds come here? Well, the Kurdish people came here in the early 70s. That was, they came here in the upper Midwest and other cities around the nation to study, to get degrees, and hopefully led by Mustafa Barzani, which was a Kurdish leader fighting the Iraqi regime, to come here, get a degree, and hopefully when Kurdistan was to become a nation or be established, for individuals and these students to have the right skills to contribute to the Kurdish society. And so after Mustafa Barzani died, he actually died here in the United States, in Rochester, Minnesota, so the Mayo Clinic, and then they took him to DC and brought him back to Kurdistan, Iraq, to bury him. And then in the 90s, the first Gulf War, as we all know, in '88 there was a huge Kurdish genocide. It was called the Anfal Campaign, Spoils of War, and Saddam, he was not a nice guy. I mean, even though he had friends, he did use chemical warfare, and he did use chemical on the Kurdish people, and that's what destroyed us in Kurdistan region of Iraq, and that's why we fled. Otherwise, we've been fighting for our land for centuries. There's a saying, those people who can't fight for their land, they shouldn't come to this. Well, we tried, but you can't fight chemical. So, and then after that, individuals, after they came here, they became naturalized citizens. So they brought, either they went to visit and brought spouses, their parents, children that were left behind, and other siblings like brothers and sisters. And then the last wave, Operation Iraqi Freedom. That was, after the liberation of Iraq, that individuals who assisted the U.S. government, to be honest with you, the Kurdish people did a lot for the American government and the U.S. military. Translated because they could speak Arabic, they could, fluent in Kurdish, so they knew where stuff was, and they gave a lot of information and were like guides. So the military was behind them while they were leading the way, and it turned out to be good. And so the U.S. government, not only for Kurdish people in Iraq, but anybody who worked with the U.S. military or government, got a chance, an opportunity, that would be a target for future events, such as we're seeing right now, ISIS, that to have an opportunity to start a new life here in America. So the population of Kurds in the United States, we have approximately 1,100 individuals in the Fargo-Moorhead region. Most of you reside in Moorhead. The biggest population is in Nashville, Tennessee. And ladies and gentlemen, no, they are not all country superstars. It's just one person, one family went, the other went, and then the other, and then everybody just made it like into a small little community, and it's called the Little Kurdistan. And a neat thing about it is they have a lot of like the Kurdish community in the city of Nashville. They do a lot of great things together. So it's really neat when you go there. And then we have other huge populations in Dallas, Texas, San Diego, and of course, because of the capital, we have individuals in Fairfax for political reasons. And so that comes out to about 50,000 Kurdish individuals in the United States. All right, so the country of Kurdistan, where is it? It's parts of northern Iraq, southern Turkey, western Iran, and eastern Syria. Our language, it's called Kurdish, of course, in the Western world, but in Kurdish we say Kurdi, or how we say it, Kurdi. And it's mixed, the language is made up of Indo-European languages mixed together to become Kurdish. The religion, majority, over 90% are Muslim, however, very moderate Muslims. Not the Muslims, what you're seeing on media and what the media is telling you. It's very different. And the good thing about the Kurdish people is nationality comes before religion. Because if you think of it, religion has come for us, yes, for us human beings to be good, to do God's work. Not to kill each other and say, my religion is better than this religion or that religion. But anyways, as you can see, we all live together, Christians, Yazidis, Turkeys, no problem. But when it comes to a matter of nationality, we are Kurdish, and then we're whatever religion. The dress, as you can see, men wear kind of like military warrior style baggy pants, and then the women are very like colorful dresses. And you see them wearing a lot of jewelry, and especially for like events. There's a huge Kurdish national holiday called Nowruz, March 21st. And usually, because times have changed, right now it's very like Western clothing wear. But if it's like national holidays or things like that, where the whole Kurdish society comes together, it's very colorful. All right, so geography of Kurdistan. It's very mountainous, like Colorado. Very hot in the summer and cold in the winter. Kurdistan is very rich in natural resources. Number one being oil. And then we have agriculture. I think just Kurdistan region of Iraq is 20% is agriculture. So if you put the other Kurdistan territories, it's huge farming area. And then we have other useful minerals that can be used for many things. Iron and a lot of other gold. And so, the fight for freedom. Kurdistan has been through decades of conflicts, centuries, and even, they haven't been really in a good situation in the Middle East. So after the Treaty of Lausanne, I think it's called, between Turkey and the Allied powers. So Turkey, as you know, had the Ottoman Empire, and they controlled the whole Middle East and most of Europe, as you know, Bosnia, and that's how they became Muslim, and because of the Ottoman Empire. And that they had a secret meeting, and Kurdistan was supposed to actually be a country and have their own state, like Iraq, Iran, Turkey, whatever. But they had a secret meeting, and there it went. And Kurds just saw themselves very, very oppressed. In Turkey, they were not allowed to speak their own language until the late 90s. In Iraq, they were not allowed to share revenues, because Iraq was a very powerful country back in the 80s and 70s, especially being friends with the United States. I mean, their currency was huge. In Syria, they were not even allowed to have citizenship. And in Iran, it's sad to say, from the Shah government to the Khomeini or whatever his name is government, till today, innocent youth are being hanged just for even just talking anything about Kurdish. You're hanged, and sometimes they even hang the youth just to frighten the family for them not to think anything about a Kurdish identity. So the Kurds, it's sad, but those Middle Eastern countries have always used the Kurds. They have used them as like warriors, in the front lines. Go, fight. If you get killed, that's fine. And after that, I'm going to take the territory and control it. All the way from Saladin, when he used to occupy the whole Middle East, and he took Palestine, Jerusalem from the Christians, and gave it back to the Muslims, to Sheikh Mohammed, which was he was killed by the Turkish government, and with the help of the British government. And then my greatest leaders here, to be honest with you, I should say my greatest leaders, but the greatest leaders who actually achieved something throughout the Kurdish history have been Qasim Mohammed, which he made a Kurdistan part called Kurdistan of Muhabbat, or still Kingdom of Kurdistan, but he was also hanged in Iran, failed. Mustafa Barzani, Kurdistan region of Iraq, he failed after he died in Rochester. Abdullah Öcalan, he failed. He's still in a Turkish prison right now. And then this man, Masoud Barzani, the son of Mustafa Barzani. He, right now, he is something that all the Kurds are looking up to. That the whole world is looking up to. Are you going to do something for the Kurdish nation? Are you gonna leave history? Are you going to create something for the Kurdish people, for them to have? And to be honest with you, he's done so many great things. And I respect this man very much, because he's seen hunger, he's seen death, he's seen his family being torn apart, he's been exiled, he's seen it all. And after right now, today, the bad relations with the Syrian government, the Turkish government, the Iranian government, the Baghdad government, who is not even a government right now, it's pretty much Iran. He's still dealing with it. He's still, maintaining his cool, because he knows this is our last chance. If the Kurdish nation does not rise and does not have something, we will never have it again. So I respect this man, and God give him all the knowledge and power to make the Kurds have their own homeland. So, the future of Kurdistan. After Operation Iraqi Freedom, the Kurds in the Kurdistan region of Iraq finally had an opportunity to do something for themselves. So they started investing, and other people started investing, and it was called the Other Iraq. I mean, you had foreign businesses from everywhere. You have over 4,000 businesses from Turkey, huge companies. So they were dealing with Iran and Iraq, and they were importing as much goods because there was a lot of demand for it. And then finally, their flag was recognized. They had their own parliament, and things really looked good. Especially, look at these Peshmerga, Brîfkî fighters. They had their defense system. So people were like, any day now, Kurdistan is going to be a state. And then, what happened? The rise of ISIS. These lunatics, these pathetic people, these thugs, destroyed everything that the Kurds worked for. They had a strong base in Raqqa, which is in Syria, because the Syrian government was collapsing. There was no law and order. Each group like this had their own little flag, you know, saying God is great, let's go kill this person. What the heck is wrong with you? So, and then after that, they come to Iraq. They come to Iraq, and Iraq has Shiite, mostly Shiite military forces. And these Shia military forces represent the Iraq government, represent the Iraq country as a defense system. They have all modern equipment from the United States. United States left so much for them behind, and they didn't want to see a split country between Sunni Kurdish or Shiite, so they thought they could do something. But what did they do? ISIS comes in, over 30,000. Just by seeing their trucks, no one even shot one fire. No one had even threw a bullet at them. And so they left all that, and ISIS, this made a stronghold for them. They got weapons now. They got no border, so they can, you know, come and go as they please from Iraq to Syria. They have oil now, which they can sell in the black market. The barrel before was $100, and they were selling it for like $30, $40. So they were profited. Banks, they took, you know, the Mosul Bank, which it had millions and millions of dollars. And then it was an easy recruit system for them, because the Shiite government was in Mosul, which Mosul is mostly Sunni, and all these, you know, not all the, but most of the majority were recruits for them. And so they did mass executions to terrorize people and to follow their so-called Sharia law. And that even put a huge burden on top, you know, of the ISIS fight, you know, when the refugees came into Kurdistan, because the Baghdad government was not giving them, you know, money, and then approximately 1.5 million, when the Kurdistan region is only 5 million. What do you do with these people? What do you do with them? Where do you put them? How do you feed them? And so as you can see, they're here in churches, and it's just... So being overwhelmed by the refugee situation, Maliki, which was in control, he's not now, didn't give him the money, so the funds were held. And then when the Kurdistan region questioned Baghdad, you know, you gotta give us some money, seriously, we can't take care of all these refugees coming from your cities, you know? And then what happens is that ISIS, Islamic State, attacks the Kurdistan region. And it was like a huge wake-up call for the Kurdish region, because they had weapons, but they were mostly Soviet-made from the 60s and 70s, you know, taken from the Iraqi regime and the Ba'ath Party. So ISIS easily took over the city of Sinjar, where there's a Yazidi sect called, a religion sect called the Yazidis, minority religion. They are Kurdish though, and they just, it was a good excuse for them and people to say, okay, you guys are doing good because they are not Muslim. Supposedly they believe in God but no prophets. So they executed thousands of them, took the children to be recruitments for them, which they can take them to whatever their little schools are, or however they train children, and brainwash them for future, so they can do the same thing in the future. And women and girls were taken to their bases as sex slaves. So after this, ISIS kept on pushing north into the Kurdistan region of Iraq. And with their, like I said, modern weapons, it was very easy for them. A lot of Kurdish people lost their lives, civilians, and peşkêşkirin, which are Kurdish fighters. And so when they were 15 kilometers away from the capital of Erbil, you know, this was a wake-up call for the United States. They're like, I don't know what happened, but you know, if you think of it, America, since the first Gulf War, has not turned their back on the Kurdish people, and it was good for us because right away they sent in airstrikes, and after, you know, when the Kurdish forces felt confident and the government felt confident, they went all out against the ISIS, and they pushed them back. Even AK-47s against tanks, no problem. They did it, and they pushed them back into Sinjar, the Kurdish city they were still occupying. So after this, after other Kurds saw what was happening, they united. Kurds from Turkey came in, Kurds from Iran came, Kurds from Syria came in. All different political parties aside, we must unite and be as one people. And so we had volunteer fighters from the outside, which was ex-military individuals who were in the Operation Iraqi Freedom. They were just sick of the United States government just standing back and Obama administration not doing nothing. So they wanted to do something in their own hands, like before when the Nazis went into Europe and the military personnel went into the United Kingdom to support them. And so Masoud Barzani made a promise to the people of Sinjar. He said, your city will be liberated, even if I'm the only fighter. So this gave a boost to the Kurdish population even more. And so he named it Operation Free Sinjar, which was taken in November of 2015. It was totally liberated, and the Kurds attacked from all sides, and ISIS was crushed and driven out of the city. But because they just destroyed the city, and what they left behind was all bombs. So any building or it would be like every 5 feet or a couple of feet, and there'd be a bomb or an IED, hidden. So it was very painful for the Peshmerga forces losing their forces easily by not fighting, but by these bombs. And taking so long to clear everything in the city so people can return back home. So how can we continue to win the war in the Kurdistan region? Is to have weapons, modern weapons, not to go through Baghdad, because a lot of weapons have been going through Baghdad, and those weapons have not been getting to the Kurds, and they're being delayed, and it's very sad. So I don't know if the government right now, I think they are directing the Kurds in Erbil directly, but it's very small. It's not huge. So they need financial support, and I think as we are speaking, there's a group of Kurdish officials, government officials, who are in DC right now, trying to get some financial loans just to be able to pay the employees, the government employees, especially the Peshmerga fighters, so they can continue this fight. And humanitarian aid. I mean, there needs to be a lot of aid, because they're already struggling to pay their people. How are they supposed to take care of these refugees? And Turkey needs to do something. I mean, we seem to be blaming Turkey for everything, but they should be blamed, because they've done a lot of wrong things, and they've allowed a lot of these fighters to go through their country. I mean, if you're a country and you're part of NATO, you're part of NATO. So that means you're a strong country that can defend your borders. So, do your job. Not for yourself, but for the whole world. Because when these ISIS, as we are seeing, they're in Brussels, they're in Paris, they're in whatever, that San Bernardino or whatever, what it is, they could be in Minneapolis tomorrow. Do we want that? No. So let's stop them before they reach to us. And they need to do something. They need to be really stronger with this ISIS situation. And they need to rethink their Kurdish question. Are they going to continue to hate the Kurdish people forever? Did Turkey forget how their history was started? The Kurds did a lot for them. The Kurdish people have done a lot for them. I'm not saying the Turkish people are bad people. They are good people. I've been to Turkey several times. But they need to change their mentality. You look at the United States. United States, we have a black president, both black people, African Americans. They were, slaves at one time. They're running the country. I mean, come on, wake up. Seriously, it's 2016. All right, so, and in Saudi Arabia, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what we say, they are like Vatican. They are like the Pope of Islam. So they need to really, if they want to stop this ISIS, they need to send a message, a better message to the world. Islam is not like this. Islam is peaceful. Well, prove it then to people, because all we're seeing is people's heads chopped off, saying, Allahu Akbar, what the heck is that? You know? People are afraid of us. You know, we have Kurdish people who are fighting these devils, these lunatics, and they are Muslim. You know, they're defending society, the humanity. I mean, come on. So, and Iran is a big threat. Iran is a huge threat. So there should be no negotiation. And what the Obama administration is doing right now, I don't like it. My personal opinion, I don't know. But Iran is not to be trusted because they don't like nobody. Because they want another Persian Empire, and they want it to be a Shiite Middle East. You know, so we all can help, ladies and gentlemen, as we did, the Kurdish community of America, the people of the Midwest. We raised close to $20,000, which was double that in Kurdistan region, and materials were a little cheaper, so we were able to put a smile, even if it's one person that we can touch and warm. It's, you know. So, my conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, is Kurdistan region has every right to claim their own statehood. I think it is time. I think it is time for Kurdistan region of Iraq to be autonomous, and Kurdistan region of Syria. It's going to be very hard for Kurdistan region of Turkey and Iran. But one peace, two peace is better than no peace. We can't be greedy like the Nazis were. They wanted to control the whole world. We'd be speaking German right now, but he was too greedy. So he lost. And then after Mr. Barzani declares a Kurdistan state, you should step down, however many years that people want to give him, step down, and then we gotta have equality for all. Especially bring the minds of those individuals who were raised in Western countries, who know Western values, who know what humanity is, who know how to raise their families and have a system. Because if you have Kurdistan and then you still have the same Ba'ath regime system, or you still have other systems where you cannot allow women to drive, where you cannot have equal treatment to the different religious sects, what is the point of having a country then? We want a Kurdistan country in the Middle East that's going to be next to Israel. I'm not saying Israel is perfect, but they sure are better than a lot of other countries in the Middle East. So that makes two countries. And in Turkey, if they change their mentality, that can be three. And we don't have to worry about all these wars in the Middle East and fighting in the Middle East and everything in the Middle East. We need to be fighting HIV, Ebola, this Zika virus. Let's go to Mars and okay, so another thing Kurdistan region needs to do if they are to become a country, in my personal opinion, is not to have just Turkish businesses. I mean, there's over 4,000 Turkish businesses, and most of these employees are not even Kurdish. The Turkish business have brought their own employees. That doesn't make sense. So they're profited both ways. Yes, they give a little tax to the government, the Kurdistan, but it's not enough. And then they have to be smart, because tomorrow Turkey could be their next enemy, and they could fight Turkey. Iraq could be their, next enemy, which they already are, but they can be, an enemy in the future, and a worse enemy. And then same with Iran, same with Syria. So they need to do other trade. Trade with China, trade with the United States, trade with Europe. Be careful. I mean, you can't just trade with your neighbors. Reach your arm out. And lastly, the Kurdish people. I promise you this. I'm not lying. Just as a marketing whatever. But the Kurdish people, 99% are pro-American. They love America. And they love America for everything that America has done for them, even though they've betrayed the Kurds many times in the past. But they still love the American people. And they love the country, the United States. And we need to, the Kurdish people need to continue this. if they want to be known in the world and they want to survive. Because these days it's, you know, sometimes maybe it's not what you know, but it's who you know. Because if they have the United States on their back, if they have United Kingdom, if they have Germany and other, you know, Western powers that are strong, they can survive and they can live freely and have their home. And this is one of my favorite quotes. Thank you very much.
We've had some provocative ideas there.